Welcome to Wealthy Mind, where we talk about all things finances, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the surprising. Welcome to Wealthy Mind. I am your host, International Success Coach, Misty Rose Gold, and we are ensuring that you have a wealthy mind. If you already have one, that you maintain it. So today I have back with me Todd Huettner for round 6.
I
Hey.
know. You mentioned that the other day, and I was like, wait a minute. No, I think we've only done like three. Um, no, yeah, I was thinking about it and like, yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of forget. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess, right?
Yeah, it does. Oh, it's been a ton of fun, and it's always fun to figure out what's our next topic. So today is number 6, and this is a juicy, juicy topic. But before we dive in, would you please tell the audience what do you do?
Yes. So I wear a couple hats. I do divorce financial consulting, and I also run a mortgage bank. So I've been in real estate and finance for 30 years, and that's how I ended up doing some of the divorce stuff and complex things. So it's uh it's a broad
Mm-hmm.
range of functions, but that's what I do, help people.
One led to the other, and the other leads back to the first one.
Yeah.
So I love how your businesses play off of each other. It's wonderful. It's a great entry point. Your Denver Divorce Professional business is a great entry point for your mortgage business.
Well, and it's hard because um for people who don't understand the complexity, like
Mhm.
that's required of the financing side to get the divorce side right. By the time we get the divorce side right, they see the complexity and realize there really isn't any other option
Mhm.
uh, without a high probability of getting things screwed up. So I'm actually was thinking about this just the other day. I actually have a lot of cases where the opposing party, if I'm not working as a neutral for both parties, but even if I am, actually, one of the attorneys is requesting that I'm actually written into the agreement, um, like that they have to use me because they don't they're not always sure. And it's not that they don't trust like bad intentions trust, it's like procrastination trust.
Yeah.
That it's really what it is. And it's actually makes a lot of sense because post decree getting stuff done
Hmm.
is hard for non-procrastinators, and for procrastinators or people who just want things perfect, like, right, it's paralysis.
Mm.
Um,
Analysis paralysis.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of, but it's perfection paralysis. So
Right.
I see it all the time. And actually, this actually just happened today. Um, one of the this was this was last year, late last year. I was a neutral, and it was one of the couple insisted that the other work with us to get everything done because she was worried for those things.
Mm.
And then we followed up. We just always keep following up, and we said, "Hey, should be getting close to the few months that we're ready to go." And once the decree was final, and he goes, "Well," and she insisted on doing everything herself. Well, she made a mistake in entering the decree, so now we have a delay, 3 months. So like we're basically just now getting past that delay. And so he's ready to go, and he got us everything updated like we asked. But that's one other thing too. That's just an evolution, that something I
Mm.
never thought of that's happened. So they
Uh,
definitely are, definitely some synergies between the two, and that's kind of how things happen when you don't plan it.
I love that you're being written into the agreement. Like you have to work with this person to
Yeah.
finalize this process. That's amazing.
Well, and it helps us too because we always follow up with our clients just to keep them on pace. There's so much going on after the decree. And it's
Hmm.
so easy for us to just have checklists and automatic emails that go out and reminders, and we have their task list and everything set up. Um, it's just a little bit more, hey, like you have to. So it's
Right?
you don't have to
Option.
be as much as a hall monitor when they have to.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. So anybody that is going through the divorce process and wants to utilize Todd's expertise in the financial realm, make sure he's written into your decree because,
Yeah. Divorce expert, mortgage banker, and hall monitor.
right. Herding cats. Got
Yep.
it. Oh, that's awesome. Great opportunity for people just to have peace of mind,
Yeah.
to write it into the actual decree. I never thought about that. And we've known each other for years. Like, that's
Yeah.
incredible. Incredible.
So yeah, last year was the first time, and it just came up. They were pro se. They both got legal advice, but they didn't have attorneys writing everything up. But then in the last 30 days, I've had two different cases where one of the spouse's attorneys just wanted to make sure they were just worried. It's usually the departing spouse, right? The spouse not keeping the house because they're really stuck if things don't happen as planned on time, which is why we have to figure it all out in advance, pre-underwrite everything to make sure it's going to work. But they're the ones who are more nervous about it. So only in the last 30 days, maybe 30, yeah, has it happened two times.
Incredible. And now
So
you can offer that to all the attorneys, all your
yeah,
clients. Like, that's a great offering. Mm,
exactly.
mm. Magnificent. Okay, so let's dive into the topic that we came up with for today, which is a very necessary topic, avoiding attorney burnout. What does that look like in your world?
Well, attorneys in general, it's a really big push within the bar association that I'm a member of, even though I'm not an attorney. But it is. I've been in the HR community for years, helping do financial wellness training. But
Hmm.
there's a huge push within the legal community for wellness. Just non. It's high stress, whether it's billable hours to achieve your goals for becoming a partner, dealing with stressful situations and deadlines,
Hmm.
dealing with
Hmm.
clients who, especially in domestic relations and in family law, can be really, really stressful because you see
Hmm.
people in really bad situations. They're very anxious about everything, and then I don't deal with it as much, but there's some bad stuff that happens, and it's not like in it's not like in, say, a business court or something, anything's different, or a business legal case, contract is a dispute. But there's definitely some stuff that hits home because kids get affected by it and they can't control it. And that's, I think, where you get a lot of extra stress. So it's definitely a push within the legal community to help people have better wellness, to avoid attorney burnout, have better health, substance abuse, stress, lack of exercise,
Yeah,
all those things kind of just happen together, it seems. And
drinking is not the answer, even though I know that that's common in the attorney world. Like,
yeah,
drinking every night is not the answer.
so that's a big push there. And then it's, again, within family law, domestic relations, it's like it's a bit more. I've known a lot of younger attorneys who started working at some of the firms I work with, who were there, and then after a little while left because it was just a lot. And they just said, I'm a good attorney. I'm just not a good family law attorney because I can't separate. I can't
Yeah,
separate some of the pieces and not worry about them. So it's definitely an important thing to think about. But if, again, it's like if it affects attorneys that much and it's not their life, how
mm,
much does it affect the families going through it? So I
right,
see both sides where there's a definitely, if you can have professionals who are in a better place, you'll have you'll have clients and families in a better place too.
for sure. So, if drinking is not the answer, what is the answer?
Good habits. So, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg is one of my favorite books. It's really entertaining. Another one is Atomic Habits. So there's a lot out there, but you
What
got to
about in
find,
the business sense?
yeah, in a bit, well, in a business sense, they're out there, but I think it's personal or business. It's the same thing. I mean, you
Hmm.
need to have good habits when it comes to this, and that's just the functional daily routine, whether it's work or personal. You've got to replace the destructive habit with something positive, and so instead of go to the gym, get a gym partner, right? Like have all those different things in your life. But the other one is find professionally, find what works, like find what's better for you. So that's one of the things I tell people a lot is find the cases that work better. Like when
Hmm.
I started, I just had people calling me saying, "Hey, can you help us figure this out?" So like 90% of them were cooperative couples who wanted to help together. So I didn't do as much where I was just working with one spouse, but then I got to see a lot of the aftermath, which was really tough, and I hated that. Like, because I can't help all these situations. So that's why I started doing what I do, which is to get ahead of it and start solving the problems before they're created.
Hmm.
And so I think for a lot of people, it's like, what are the cases that you really enjoy, even if they're tough? Maybe it's the solution and the resolution for the spouse or for the kids or for the family that you really, really really enjoy, or maybe it's just stepping out of like high litigation, high stress cases and focusing on cases that are lower stress where people want to work together. And for me, it's I have enough of that um, that I can take the other cases and it doesn't really affect me. But one of the cases I think about the most wasn't cooperative at all, and it wasn't a big deal. I mean, dollars wise, I've had much bigger issues, but it was like it's like the Bible story of the poor lady who gave a penny, and that
Hmm.
was her last penny. So it wasn't a lot of money, but it was almost all the money this lady had,
Hmm.
and it was a mistake, and it could have been prevented, and it was just honestly it was a mistake on the attorney's part and a few others. So I think about that one a lot, but overall, that to me is motivation to get all the other ones right and do everything I can. And you can't solve all the problems, but I think the little things in the day to day, you got to start having good habits. So go to the gym instead of, not going to the gym and drinking or doing something destructive. And
Hmm.
then big picture, how can you start to change your practice, your clientele, how you approach them? So it's not just the cases you take, but it's how you approach those cases, I think, that can really help
Hmm.
for a lot of the factors that affect professionals across all walks of life and professions.
Certainly. So if an attorney wants to move from more of a litigation heavy practice to collaborative, what does that look like for them? What are the options?
You have some who really want to go cold turkey, so to speak. Just
Yeah.
practically, it's harder, and it's
It's
harder
doable.
because it's doable. It's definitely doable, but you honestly like have to walk away. Like it's like that person that you see that has bad habits. But it's like you got to quit going to the bar. You got to like not the bar association, but like the bar
Right,
where you drink.
right.
You can't hang out with people who drink if you can't drink. Like if
Right.
you literally, if you're AA, like you got to hang out. You got to hang out with AA people, not with people who are drinking. Like
Hmm.
for the most part, that's a pretty solid rule that you got to stick by. So, it's one of those things where if you want to quit litigating, it's hard to hang out with a ton of litigators. And there's
Mm.
also so long that if you've been good at what you do, there's a
Hmm.
lot of people who still want that and need that. And so that's where I think you can just say, I'm going to switch my practice. I'm going to change 100%. There's a transition period there will definitely have an impact to business. I think an easier way
And
to
the
do it.
finances. So if they choose
Yeah,
that
you got to
route,
plan. You want to plan and
yeah.
have just, it'd be the same as if you were going from family law maybe to corporate law,
Mm.
right? There would be a big difference there if I was going to go do something completely different. So, from doing what I do, which has elements of financial planning, and people have asked me to be a financial planner, but if I was going to just completely switch and like
Hmm.
do something different like financial planning, there would definitely be a huge lull while they're synergistic and there would be some transfer between them. It would still be a big change. And the
Yeah.
other option is to start hanging out in the right places, and I think that's important for collaborative in particular. It's a little bit unique in the sense that when it comes to attorneys and working on cases and starting to do things that are cooperative and collaborative, you
Hmm.
have to trust the other professionals, especially, and attorneys are especially fearful of this. And I didn't understand it until I've been in the community of these professionals for 8 years now, where, and this comes up almost at every one of our collaborative trainings that we do through the Colorado Collaborative Divorce Professionals. And they just say, how do you trust someone? Like, we've been trained through law school to never trust the other party because they'll screw you and you can get in a lot of trouble, and it's a big problem. So how do you go from that? And it's like, well,
Mm.
it takes a while to build, just like it would in any other relationship. So
Okay.
I think that's a part of it, is if you want to go that kind of organic growth route where you grow your business, you have to start creating relationships with people you would work with and building more of them so that you can transition to these cases that are a bit less stressful, that you enjoy more, and it takes time. And so it to me, that organic route is you start growing your cases in a different way so you can start being selective and
Hmm.
not taking some of these cases that
Hmm.
might be a little bit more litigious and higher stress. So I think there's two ways to do it, but I think it's definitely something that professionals will start to seek out more.
Oh, for sure. And, if they're going to cut cold turkey and go from litigation to collaborative, make sure that you have a good financial buffer because there's going to be a
Yeah.
lull. There will be a downturn in your revenue. It's just the nature of the beast. Now, if you do it more organically, that's controllable, much more controllable. So just from my perspective as a coach,
Yeah.
pick your route. It doesn't matter which one you choose, just know what is involved in each one and then prepare for it. So,
And I think there's a trade-off of time, right? Like, if you cut cold turkey, you can do it faster
yeah.
than if you wean yourself off. And this isn't the best analogy because it's not like you can wean yourself off of addiction slowly, but so for the addiction to litigation cases, maybe it does work a little better. But yeah, I think that that's kind of that issue. The one thing that's a little bit unique about collaborative is that trust that it takes with other
Mm-hmm.
professionals in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I think, um, but if you have people who've been involved in the family law community for a long time and have relationships, but just haven't been doing those cases, it would be an easier transition.
Mm-hmm.
So
Definitely.
that's a big part of it.
That trust piece that keeps shining at me like a giant flashlight because this is stuff that I deal with in my coaching on a day-to-day
Yes.
basis, right? So just understanding what is involved, you are recreating your programming. You have to rewrite your own programming. If you're taught to not trust in other professionals, you have to create new neurological pathways. How do we do that? Something very, very simple, and I'm just going to throw this out there. I I can learn to trust other professionals and just start using a phrase like that so that you start creating the new neurological pathways to complement it. So if you're not doing the mental work to complement the direction you want to go, it's going to be a massive, massive battle. I mean, there are going to be challenges anyway,
Yeah.
but you don't want those battles of your programming is telling you not to trust, but in the collaborative space, you have to learn to do so. So make it easier for yourself, please, and start that preparation now mentally. And then join organizations like Colorado uh, Collaborative Divorce Professionals. Did I say it right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But
CCDP.
that goes, what you just said goes really well um, with one of the topics that we cover in the collaborative training, because people will ask, like, it's called the paradigm shift.
Mm,
And people will say, what's the biggest difference between collaborative or non-collaborative? And when I say collaborative, I mean, it can mean the formal collaborative or it can mean highly cooperative, because here in Colorado, collaborative law now means something because of the Uniform
mm,
Collaborative Law Act. But at the end of the day, if you have a highly, highly cooperative case,
okay.
that you trust the other professionals and everything's the same, except maybe you didn't sign the Uniform Collaborative Law Act for one specific or two reasons because of the nature of the case. And there's a lot of issues, there's a few issues where that addiction, domestic violence, and things like that can can be factors where collaborative wouldn't be a great idea. So, but the attorneys always say in a non-collaborative, cooperative, highly cooperative case, I'm constantly thinking in the back of my mind about going to court. You're always preparing for court. You hope you don't go
Mm.
there, but you have to prepare that way. And you
Yeah.
can't do certain things. And when you switch over to the collaborative mindset, you now are not worried about that because it's really off the table. It actually is in the collaborative because of the exclusion clause.
Mm.
And I can start thinking productively for my clients. And I can
Mm.
say things that would otherwise not, I wouldn't be able to say for them, say on their behalf to the other party, to the other attorney, or to the
Hmm.
mediator, however we're doing this, because I know we're not going to court. So it's literally a complete shift of not only is it possible and I can do it, but it's it's just you never realize when someone is saying, I'm always planning for court. In the back of my mind, I'm always planning for court. I have to. And that's one of those other things that as a non-attorney, you just don't really think about until you get into this community. And so I think also that's really helpful for the average person who, again, is not an attorney to understand how their attorney approaches their case and that they're always planning for court because that's the worst case.
And if an attorney, like we're talking about avoiding attorney burnout here. So if an attorney is always planning to go to court, that's a huge energy drain. Like mentally, emotionally, everything that makes up our energy. I just, if I'm seeing myself in in their shoes. If I were always planning for court, that's a high stress environment. It's a high stress process.
Yeah. Well, and here's another thing. Like with the dockets as full as they are, you might get a half day, like 3 hours tops. So now you have the stress of the responsibility to be prepared and do everything on your client's behalf because their rest of their life depends on 3 hours. Well,
Mm.
an hour that's going to be formalities for the most part. The other half, the other side gets an hour and you get an hour.
Hmm.
Okay, wait. So now I get 1 hour. I get 60 minutes to present the most important facts, educate the judge, magistrate on what we've got to deal with here, and then I've got to defend my client from being painted in the worst possible light and potentially things that may not be quite accurate. So, like, that's a huge stress. I mean,
Mm.
I mean, most of the attorneys I work with aren't highly, litigators, but there many are,
Hmm.
but it's a huge stress. Whether they like it or not, it's a huge stress.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. Just being able to have time to get the best outcome for your clients where you're not so limited. And just like, man, if I don't get this right, like that's a big burden to bear.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, totally. I'm thinking about the relief it can bring people to have that mental burden off and the
yeah,
emotional burden and everything that comes with it. Like looking into your future, you're able to enjoy your future more.
yeah.
So if you look into your future and you see high stress situations continuously, there's no enjoyment in that. There's no fulfillment.
There can be, I think, in the short run, but I think it's like a lot of other things where people like fill their a win. How satisfying is a win, right?
Mm.
It's like shopping therapy. It's only fleeting. And
Or the adrenaline junkies, right? Like some attorneys
yeah,
love the
like the win
courtroom,
gives them that adrenaline rush, but then they're not
right?
satisfied until the next one. And so that's why they need it. They crave it. It's an addiction in and of itself.
It is. Adrenaline is an addiction.
Yeah. And so that's where one of the David Littman, who's a very experienced and one of the founders of collaborative law practice in the state of Colorado, was nice enough to go out to lunch with me a few years ago when I was first becoming a member of the collaborative community, and I just wanted to get his perspective on someone who'd done this for a long time, and he also thinks about like every attorney, they have different perspective and lenses, and
Sure.
just because they have different experiences. And the one thing that stuck out to me the most is something I share with people quite often. And he said, Todd, I couldn't do this. for the decades that I've practiced law if I didn't do it the way I do it. And he said that those litigated cases, they come up and I do them and I'm good at them, but they don't fill me. They deplete me. And and he said this collaborative practice and mindset fills me. And so I can
Mm,
do it. And I've done it. And so that, I mean, what he's saying is avoiding the burnout.
hmm
And and most people don't use the word deplete, but I thought it was, I don't think there was like that much meaning necessarily. I mean, I know there is, but I think it was the choice of words that was a word that's not used that much, that it stood out, at least in my mind,
hmm
that it was significant. It's the, um, and I could just visualize it better, and maybe I remembered it better, but I don't know. I just remember that word deplete and how it just takes away from like your life force. And then the other so general is fills me. I mean, that's a very general word, fill. So I don't know. That stuck with me, and that's something I share with people a lot. And that's what this whole push for wellness and avoiding burnout for legal professionals and is so important. And I think this is a good way to have that perspective, and that's why I wanted to share that.
hmm Definitely. And from my viewpoint, I don't think a lot of people know what depletes them or what fills them. So they kind of have to figure it out. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, let me really think about this. Like, what takes my energy away? What gives me energy?
yeah,
And this is something that people need the awareness. If you have awareness, you can be successful in any part of your life. So the more aware you are of yourself and all the moving pieces of you,
yeah,
it's easier to make these decisions. Like even in my personal life, removing some people from my personal life because they deplete me. They do not fill me. They are not a good addition to my life or a good part of
yeah,
it because of those reasons. But that means I actually take time to evaluate my energy and my relationships. So
yes.
that awareness piece is a huge part of it. And I think that's where people need to start, especially attorneys that don't want to burn out. They see it all the time in their industry. Well, where do I start? Okay, gaining awareness is a huge key to not burning out.
The biggest thing about awareness is I think I've used this once before, but this analogy with you, it's like if you like a car, you want to buy a car, you see the car everywhere. So it's like your initial awareness and that initial intentionality of finding that or realization, you almost are unaware of how much more aware you are ongoing. You see what I
Mm,
mean? Like, and the thing I keep coming back to is if you think you like a car, you want to buy a car, you see it everywhere, and it's automatic. It's you don't even think about it cognitively until you start recognizing, oh, wow, I just noticed another one. And it's not like there's 10 times the number of those cars out on the road in the last month. It's the fact that I'm now looking for them unconsciously. And
hmm
so I think the same thing can happen. Once you can articulate this, once you have that initial eureka of awareness, all of a sudden it just stands out automatically for you. And that's
mm,
where I think there's a huge like difference in how powerful awareness can be because it's not just when you're intentionally looking for it. Once you have that, it sticks with you.
hmm Definitely. Let's go back to the trust portion of this. I have a question for you, and let's
Yes.
go ahead and wrap up with this question. How do you build trust with other professionals? I want you to tell the audience how you do that. So when attorneys are listening, they can see themselves in that position of how do I actually build trust with other professionals? So what's your process?
I tell the truth. And sometimes I tell the painful truths. And I think that I get a lot of calls from attorneys who didn't know me but worked with me, and they may have literally been the other spouse, meaning the opposing party in a non-neutral. So people can engage me where I work for them for one side,
hmm
uh, or as a neutral. And as a neutral, I'm literally working for both and have a, responsibility to both to be transparent and all these other things. But even when I'm working for just one side, I I basically act as a neutral. And to me, there's a lot of reasons for that.
Hmm.
Um, I think you get the best results when data is a tool, not a weapon, when you have transparency. And I tell people all the time, from an empathetic perspective, this will help you get a good result, but we have to solve their problem. They're
Hmm.
not going to agree to anything if we can't solve their problem. So selfishly, to get what you want, we got to help them get what they want. Doesn't mean we give away the farm, but we have to go through that. And then we need to explain to them what they need. And so from the attorneys I work with, who I may have known for a while, or maybe they just met me because their client found me and then referred me to them, or maybe it's an attorney who's working with the other spouse. And so I meet them at mediation. So the more and more mediations I'm in, the more and more mediations people are having me come into. So I've got a mediation tomorrow, and I know it used to be, hey, we'll have a question, maybe we'll call. And now it's like I just plan on being there. I was in one last week where 5 hours. I was there 5 hours and it was hugely productive. We wouldn't have gotten an agreement without it. And it was very helpful to walk the client through some things, his attorney, the mediator, and then I even got on with the other parties. And that's where I could just explain, how's this going to work? What are your concerns? And that's one of those where they wrote me in that the husband had to work with me in my process. And it's because they trusted the process. I don't think it's necessarily like, I mean, yes, they trusted Todd, but I think it's just my process. I think it's my transparency. I think it's that I encourage people to talk about the stuff that is a little harder to talk about and the stuff that's not, like, when we're talking about things that are in their favor, like that's not normal for divorce. When someone's saying, "Hey, here's how we can help you. Like if you do it this way, it saves you money. Help
Hmm.
us help you."
Yeah.
And I think that's refreshing. I think it stands out. I think it's unique. I don't know how else to explain how more and more of my business is coming from people across the table who are calling me to help their next client,
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
writing me in where they trust me enough that they're insisting that their spouse works with me to get across the finish line. So
Well, I know some of the ways that you've built trust with the attorney community. One is through CCDP. One is
yeah,
through you are a speaker. So you speak at the attorney events, which is part of this. But the things that I'm highlighting here for attorneys, because not all attorneys are going to get up and go speak. Not all attorneys are going to do
yeah,
the things that you've done, right? So tell the truth, be transparent, but experience over time. So these
yeah,
attorneys have experienced you multiple times. And through that process, you learn to trust somebody. So that's just in general. It doesn't matter if it's in business or in personal
yeah,
relationships. Experiences over time will tell us, can we trust this person? Can we not? So that's a
yeah. I
part
mean,
of
that's
it.
it.
Be patient.
Yeah,
Be patient with that process of letting the relationship naturally develop. But there's one situation that I'm thinking of specifically. So if an attorney in Colorado wants to visit CCDP, Colorado Collaborative Divorce Professionals, if they want to visit and hang out with a lot of the experts that are in the organization or a membership, right? So they're hanging out, they meet Akram, and they're like, "Cool, I want to get to know Akram." What's the process? So let's take it back to the very, very
yeah.
basics of learning to trust somebody. You meet somebody new at this event, you meet Akram, shake his hand, and then what?
Well, I think there's several ways. One is, I think even before that, if you meet someone like, hey, there are some good folks here, go to the CCDP website and look at our professional directory. Holy cow, I didn't realize this person was in collaborative.
Mm,
So just go look, see who's out there. And then there's also people who aren't necessarily active members who've been a member of the community for a long time who are out there as well in the world. But you can come to the monthly member meetings. We take off during the summer. But basically, that's September through May
mm,
that we have our meetings, August through May. And so you can come to the monthly meetings. They're basically the fourth Wednesday of the month at 9 o'clock.
mm,
And that's a great way to meet people. And then we have We have different events that we're doing. So we'll do happy hours from time to time where you can come out and socialize. And then if you come to one of those, like your example is you meet a member that you'd like, then people oftentimes just set up coffee, uh,
Okay.
breakfast, lunch, just an interaction to get to know people a little bit more. I love the Bagel Deli. It's close, it's convenient, it's awesome food. It's a little bit,
Chaos.
noisy,
Yeah.
which is the gray noise can definitely be there. But I love taking people there, and for people who've never been, it's just kind of one of those
Hmm.
things. So I always say, hey, I'll drive to you, or we can meet in the middle, or if you want to come over, a little closer to here, there's the Bagel Deli, and I'll be my treat. So I always look to make connections, and it takes time, like you said. I mean, it's not just that one time, but
Hmm.
I have a professional who I reached out to and said, "Hey, let's get together. I want to brainstorm on how we could do a couple things." And her response was like, I'm serious. I was just actually going to email you about that. Now, we met probably 4 years ago,
Hmm.
and we've just simply had these different events where paths have crossed. And then at the last one, we had a great conversation, and I was like, kept coming back to, you know what? I think there's something there a little more, let's brainstorm on that, and maybe we
Hmm.
could find a different way to help people if we
Yeah.
were to integrate our processes a little bit. So, and it's a non-legal professional, but I do that with attorneys and others, and just like, hey, how can I help? Like, what can we do? Like, how can we help
Hmm.
clients? How can we make this better? How can we grow the collaborative community, cooperative, out of court folks? And so
Yeah.
that's really, I think, just the best way. Start loitering. Loitering can be a good thing, right?
Yes, definitely. And then when
Not
you
by the
go,
bathrooms and not by the liquor store,
right.
but loiter, yeah, loiter in the good places where good people hang out.
So when you go to CCDP and you meet Akram, Akram is a financial planner, wealth advisor. He has his own company, Reduced to Financial. When you go there and meet Akram, then you can be like, hey, I want to get to know you. Let's go have a drink. That's Akram's thing. He likes to go
Oh
have
yeah,
a drink.
he's a food
So
guy.
he's a
Foodie and drink guy.
foodie and he likes drinks.
Yeah,
So that's the way to his heart. So it's basic networking. It's networking 101. Meet a person, shake their hand, figure out what they like. Do you want to do happy hour with me? Do you want to have coffee? Do you want to do lunch? What's better for you? And let them choose. And then just sit down and get to know them.
yeah,
Like that's how you build trust, is get to know people. If you sit down and just talk business the whole time, you're not going to really get to know the person and nor will you be able to trust them. So when we build trust connections with people, there's a common connection, a common bond, an emotional connection that begins to build that trust factor. So when you share personal information, when you share something vulnerable, when you like if for me, when I talk with people, I will share some very personal stories so that they feel comfortable being vulnerable with me. So I lead with vulnerability.
yeah,
It just works. And that vulnerability opens up that space for genuine connection. And where there's genuine connection, then we can trust each other a lot easier.
yeah. No, I agree. It's just if you can share common experiences, common places that you've been, or things like common likes, like Akram loves food. He loves different, pairing wines and foods and all these
Hmm.
things. And
Hmm.
you have something that he's had, and you can see the enjoyment he has and the love he has. And then you've had that food before, and you're like, yeah, yeah, that is great. Or you haven't, and then you go try it, and then you share with them, hey man, I went and actually tried out that thing and it was awesome. And so that's the way it is with anybody, I think.
Yeah.
And it's hard, it's hard for people when they do networking because they think it's like magic. And maybe there is, but at the end of the day, it's just interacting with someone and and finding any, commonality to talk about. And that commonality can be anything, whether it's
Hmm.
your love of the Broncos or frustration with the Rockies or whatever, I mean, everyone
Hmm.
has something.
They do.
You can always find a connection.
They do, definitely. Well, this has all been very helpful information. So, attorneys, let's avoid burnout. Let's find a better way to do things. And you're going to have to learn some things along the way, and that's okay. It's part of life. And hey, it just makes us better people and more fulfilled if we are willing to try new things and learn and grow and develop. So I encourage all of you to let yourself think outside the box and do things differently. If you want different results, you have to do things differently. So there's that.
That's a little one, just a little. Yeah, come over, hang out with folks who get along, cooperate, collaborate.
Mhm.
It's at the end of the day, you'll enjoy it and you'll get some skills that'll work for all of your cases, and you'll build some community and get a chance to meet some different people that you could then start moving towards that direction if that's what fills you.
Awesome. Well, Todd, thank you. 6 interviews in, we always think that we're going to run out of stuff to talk about, and we never do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for just sharing your time and your wisdom and your heart of service. I
Well, you're
really
welcome.
appreciate it. For new listeners, where is one way that people can find you? What you like your website?
Um, the divorcecfo.com
Hmm.
is one way.
Hmm.
That's a little easier for people to get. It's a little faster. Or
Yeah.
Denver Divorce Professionals. Um, I talk a lot more about, I think, the divorce stuff here, so that
Hmm.
those two are the easy ways to go. Or you can just Google Todd Huettner, but then you got to
Cool.
figure out how to spell it, I guess.
Well, the description will take care of that
Oh
for
yeah, that's true.
people.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah, it's a fun spelling. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you for all of your time. Thank you for all the wonderful interviews. And again, thank you for putting all this wonderful information out there to the public. I really appreciate it. So,
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity to have the platform to get this
mm,
information out there to help people.
you're
It
welcome.
makes a big difference.
Good. I'm glad it does. Well, thank you. And to all the listeners, thank you for tuning in to all these wonderful interviews with Todd. And we will see you guys again soon. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Mind podcast. Please be sure to download the Wealthy Mind app today and make sure to support your local Dress for Success.